Now the really questionable one is the ground, which that's a no. That is a definite solid no. All right, so I stopped last night and I went to mull it over, and I went on YouTube, saw what other people did, and this job, not gonna lie, it's been a little bit humbling. I was way too ambitious thinking I could squeeze all that through that way. Now there is one last thing I could try. I found a couple people who did this method, and I'm going to try it myself and we'll see if it works. Alright, so the idea here, I want to avoid damaging this wire or marring it too much, so I don't want to force it. Maybe I would have gotten it if I really forced it in, but I probably would have damaged the insulation, and this insulation here, this is particularly important. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the grinder, I'm going to make a little incision here, enough room to pull one of these wires through. When I get it up, I can bend it straight up one at a time rather than trying to feed it in. And once it's up, I can take the rest of the conduit, slide it over, and just pre-assemble everything. Once it's assembled, I can put this back on with a metal contact cement and seal it back up, get everything put back together, and it should be good, it should be sealed, it should be fine. So that's what we're going to try. And I have an extra one, but if I think really if this doesn't work, I'm going to bump it up to the 2-inch conduit like I probably should have done to begin with. So this is just some of that siding scrap. Just because I'm taking the grinder over here to avoid mishaps, I'm going to put this over like so, just to protect the line, because I'm not gonna bother taking it out again. So when I make this cut, I'm gonna try and taper it slightly inward, that way it slides out. If I go the other way, I won't be able to reassemble it after everything's put back together. So I'm gonna grind it, tapered in ever so slightly, and we'll see. There we go, and obviously there's a little gap there, but we're going to use some JB Weld or something. And once it's on, I could just zip tie it to the conduit, and that should hold it exactly where it has to be. All right, so let's give this a whirl. Make sure I don't lose that. We're going to pull this part out, just one at a time. You know what? I could probably pre-bend these as well. Might be a good idea. Bam. See, the fact that even this is a challenge tells me I wouldn't have gotten it. I just wouldn't, it wouldn't have happened. No possible way. Now, you know what? That's a problem. These lines can't be twisted. That's unfortunate. This is twisted. All right, so that's all done. Now we're gonna hop inside, we're gonna put the panel up, and once that wire's fed into the panel, I need the excess off that wire to finish feeding between these two boxes. So I'm gonna get that done now, and once these wires are in, I'm gonna start hooking them up. Once they're hooked up, we're getting pretty close. I'll be calling inspection for tomorrow. All right, so here we are back into the dungeon, and we're gonna have a look at installing the new panel box. So this is the panel box here. And clearly that is much larger than the previous one. So I'm gonna leave this plywood on. It's fine, it's not breaking down, there's nothing wrong with it. I'm just gonna extend it down lower, and I got some panel outside to do that, and then I'm gonna make sure everything's stripped off. Once I hang the panel up, we're gonna feed this wire through. And once that's done, we'll be able to get that hooked up. And I'm gonna be using the offcut for the running from the meter panel over to the exterior shutoff. So I'm gonna hop outside, I'm gonna get a piece cut, and we're gonna get this done sooner than later, because one thing I'm very aware of is I have no power here. I have no way of charging my batteries. So these flashlights, they can soak down the batteries pretty good sometimes. I have a number of them, but I've already got a couple dead ones I forgot to charge last night. So I want to make sure I'm being efficient when I'm working in the basement. go. Works. You know, I got the perfect screw for this up top. I'm gonna go grab that. We've got some washer head screws here. Hopefully they're not too long. And you know, I'm just looking at this. This seems a bit too low. I'm gonna go ahead and raise this up a hair. Now it's not on this panel, but you see we got neutral bars on either side. We have to install a ground bar separately. Now code before allowed these the ground and the neutral to run together. But what we're doing now, as per code, is we're actually separating the neutral from the ground outside. We have to do that at the first point of connection after the meter. So it's still connected together at the meter box. As soon as we go from the meter box into the outside breaker panel, we're going to be separating the neutral from the ground, and they'll become two separate things. So I'm going to have this installed, and let's see. And I'm just noticing I don't have the little tie-in to attach this giant bar to it. I gotta get one. I might have something I can scavenge it off of outside, but we'll see. But yeah, that's gonna go right here, just like so. This one gonna be going here, and that's gonna be, not gonna lie, getting these two in is gonna be a fight. What I may wind up doing, I'm going to do these first, but I might loosen this off so I can raise the whole thing up and then drop them into these terminals. Because bending them over such a short span like this, this is about as tough as it was outside, and you just saw my struggle out there. So, and then here's the ground. This is going to tie into this bar here, and I got to grab some bushings for these connections to the conduit. Actually, I don't need one here. This isn't in conduit, but I need one on the outside for sure. So I'll be getting that as well. And there's going to be a ground rod tied directly into the breaker panel outside. The ground has to start from that point. That has to be the primary point of grounding. So let's start getting that underway. Let's go see if these will work. Otherwise, I gotta buy another 2 feet of line. All right, so we've had a lot of rain recently. Because of the rain and the heavy winds and all that, we had a lot of branches drop off. So this yard is covered. We got a ton of trees around, and yeah, the power went out at the place we're actually staying, and we know it was pretty bad. So we pulled out the bike, and it turns out it's a pretty handy thing. The kids love using it. They take it around, they pick up sticks, and get a lot done. So it's been good.
Let me see all the sticks you found. Isn't that easy to have it just right there, and you just have to drive around and get them?
Yeah.
All right, go dump them in the fire pit. Maybe we'll have a fire.
Put it on my boot. Just one end. Move it over. Yep, just like that. Now watch. Let go. Let go. So this is great. Saves me a lot of work picking up the sticks, and thanks Viribus for making chores fun. That's definitely the case. The kids really had a blast working on this. So yeah, the reward, they're gonna get a bonfire. As soon as that wood dries out, it's sitting in the fire pit ready to go. Next chance we get. It's a little windy tonight. I don't think I'm gonna do it tonight, but as soon as the wind dies down, we're ready to go. Yeah, we're gonna light one up. They'll love it. That'll just barely make it. I can turn that, that one will just barely make it. Gold. That one will work. Actually bent it a little bit too far. I can play with that when I get to it. Now the really questionable one is the ground, which that's a no. That is a definite solid no. Alright, so before I go too far, one thing we want to do, we don't want this jagged edge left here like this. So I have some insulated bushings we're going to throw over top, and we should do that before we go too far. Now I did go get the wire I need, and that's all fine and dandy. Now this bushing, because we're using a metal conduit, it should be a grounded bushing. Now for some reason I couldn't find any for the life of me. So what I'm going to do instead is bond it directly to the conduit, and that'll serve the exact same purpose. So that'll be fine. Oh my. There we go. There we go. That's just going to keep them from chafing. We'll get this one in while we're at it. Alright, so it work. This should work for all our purposes now. So here. Before I do that, I'm just going to add an antioxidant compound, especially because this is outside, so I'm going to throw a dab of this on. And this is very convenient for this, so I'm going to use this to kind of spread it around using the wire brush. It's also going to make sure that connection is nice and clean. Then we're going to slip it in there, and that'll just keep it good over time. So the other thing we're going to do, we're going to be going back and forth with these lugs, and the reason for that is you want them to settle in. So I put it in, jiggle it around a little bit, loosen it off, jiggle it again, tighten it up. So what happens is you can put it in and assume it's tight, but you get a lot of expansion and contraction over time. The electrical itself gives off heat, which adds to that, and then you've also got the factor that when there's current running through something, it vibrates. So if your joints aren't good, or your connections aren't really solid, that could be a lot of future problems. So that's about as much as we're getting out of that. Unfortunately, they don't have an Allen key fitting like this one, so there's only so far you can go with a flat screwdriver, but with all these fittings, the neutrals, and then of course in the meter box here, these are actually going to be torqued down to spec, and they at least on the meter box here, they have torque specifications. So I'm going to be bringing a torque wrench out to finish up, and I'm going to be doing all these nuts to about 250 pounds and all these nuts to about 250 pounds. What does it say here? So the neutral, yeah, so the ground is only 50, which is what I did. So that's fine. But basically, all these nuts are going to be to 250 pounds. And I'm going to be setting my torque wrench up, and when I hear that click, I know I'm good. But I'm going to do the same process on all those as well. So before I get to those, I'm going to hook up to the ground rod over here. So that's necessary at the first point of grounding. So I'm going to have the ground rod and this smaller one. I got a 4-gauge ground cable, and I'm going to run it through here. And because I couldn't find a grounded a bushing, I'm going to clamp it to the conduit itself, and that'll serve the exact same purpose. So I'm feeling inside because you want to make sure the set screw is back far enough it's not going to get in the way at all with the placing the wires inside. So while I was waiting for the first round of epoxy to set up a bit so I could finish, I got the torque wrench set up, and I already torqued down most of the nuts, but I'll show you on these last ones here. So this is a torque wrench. You'll see it's got all kinds of measurements here, and they're all a little different, I suppose, but you move it around to the desired torque. And what happens is, I left just these two nuts here, but I'm going to crank it down, and when it reaches where it's supposed to be, it's going to click. It's not that click, it's that one. So every time I move it now, it clicks, and it's pretty accurate too. So essentially they're all tightened down to the same torque. That's it. So I already had them pretty close. It only took another quarter to half turn for most of them. So the outside is essentially done. I got the cover back on that conduit. Now all I have to do is install a ground rod and deal with this, and I'll be done on the outside as far as we have to do for right now. I have no idea what this slab of concrete is for, but it is right against the foundation all the way down, and it looks like it's pretty original. So I'll have to investigate that further, but in the meantime I still need a ground rod right here, so I'll have to make do. So that's definitely not the prettiest part, but as I said, I can move that ground rod down the road as soon as I figure out what's going on there. I could also put it a little further back. I just don't have enough wire as it is right now to do that. So we'll get that figured out when it's necessary. For right now, the biggest thing is getting power turned back on. I need power back to this house. It definitely feels, it doesn't feel right that I can't turn the lights on right now. And I really don't like that. So let's get the power turned back on.